He was the kind of bully who never thought twice. He didn't need a reason to pick on someone weaker. He didn't care about justice or fairness or what was right. All he cared about was power, the thrill of pushing someone down just to feel taller for a moment. And today he had a target, a laborer, a quiet man who looked like he belonged nowhere but in the background. The laborer didn't speak much. He just worked. He lifted heavy boxes, carried materials, and kept his head down. He didn't complain. He didn't fight. He didn't even react when the bully walked in and stared at him like he was a piece of trash. The bully walked around the warehouse like he owned it, smirking at everyone. His eyes locked onto the laborer, and he made his decision. He was going to humiliate him. At first, the laborer tried to ignore him. He kept working. He kept his focus. He didn't give the bully the satisfaction of a reaction. But the bully wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He wanted to break him. So he walked over, shoved a box into the laborer's hands, and laughed like he was giving him a gift. The laborer didn't flinch. He didn't even look up. The bully got closer. He leaned in and whispered something cruel, something meant to cut deep. He watched the laborer's face, waiting for the pain, waiting for the anger. But nothing happened. The laborer's expression stayed calm. The bully's smirk grew wider. He believed he had won. Then the bully did something that crossed a line. He pushed the laborer hard, and the laborer stumbled. The bully laughed louder, expecting a fight. He expected the laborer to react. He expected a scene. But the laborer didn't fight back. He didn't shout. He didn't scream. He simply stood up, slowly. He dusted off his clothes, and the air in the room changed. The bully didn't notice it yet, but something inside the laborer had awakened. Not anger, not revenge, something much deeper, something controlled, something dangerous. The bully still thought this was a simple weak man, but he was about to discover the truth, a truth that would change everything. The bully stood there, still smiling, still confident. He believed the laborer was broken. He believed he had won. He believed this was a simple story. Bully hurts weak man stays quiet, bully laughs and walks away. But the laborer didn't walk away. He stayed. And that's when the bully started to feel something strange. It wasn't fear yet. It was curiosity. Because the laborer wasn't angry. He wasn't begging. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't even scared. He was calm, too calm. Like a person who had already decided what would happen next. Like someone who had been through this before. Like someone who knew how to control the situation without even raising his voice. The bully leaned in closer, trying to get a reaction. "What's wrong with you?" he sneered. "You don't even care? You're just going to stand there and let me do whatever I want." The laborer finally looked up. The bully expected weakness. He expected pain. He expected shame. Instead, he saw something he had never seen before. A quiet intensity. A steady focus. A face that didn't belong to a man who had been pushed around all his life. For a moment, the bully felt a chill. He shook it off, because he couldn't admit that the situation was slipping away from him. He forced himself to laugh. "You're weird," he said. "You're just weird." The laborer took one step forward. Not aggressive, not threatening. Just forward, like someone who didn't need permission to stand his ground. The bully backed up, surprised because he didn't expect the laborer to move toward him. He expected the laborer to retreat. He expected him to disappear. He expected him to stay invisible. But the laborer didn't. The bully raised his hand as if he was about to strike again. He was ready to punish him, ready to prove he was still in control. He was ready to show the laborer who was stronger. He was ready to end this. And then something happened that changed everything. The laborer didn't attack. He didn't fight. He didn't strike. He simply moved, and the movement was so fast it didn't look real. It was like the air itself had changed speed. The laborer shifted his body, and in a split second, the bully found himself unbalanced. He stumbled forward, not because he was pushed, but because the laborer had altered his center of gravity without even touching him. The bully tried to regain control. He turned around, ready to throw a punch, but the laborer was already in front of him. Not close, not too close, but close enough that the bully could feel the power in the laborer's presence. The bully's face changed. The bully's confidence faded. The bully's eyes widened. He was starting to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. Because the laborer was not just a laborer. The laborer was a master. The laborer was Bruce Lee, and the bully didn't realize it yet. But this moment was about to become the worst decision of his life. The laborer spoke softly, almost calmly. "You shouldn't pick on people who are calm," he said, "because calm people are not weak. They're simply waiting." The bully tried to laugh again, but it came out as a nervous sound. He backed up, his body shaking slightly. He realized he was trapped in a situation he didn't understand. The laborer didn't raise his hand. He didn't threaten him. He just stood there, steady calm like a mountain. The bully looked around, searching for an escape. But the room was closed. The doors were locked. The bully was alone with the one person he thought he could crush. And now, he was the one who felt crushed. The laborer didn't need to prove anything. He didn't need to fight, because the bully already knew the truth. He knew he had picked the wrong man, and he knew the moment he would regret forever. The bully's heartbeat was loud. Not loud enough for anyone else to hear, but loud enough for him to feel it in his chest like a drum. He stared at the laborer, at the calm face, at the steady posture, at the controlled presence. It was like staring at a wall that didn't care what he thought, a wall that wouldn't break. He tried to make sense of it. He tried to tell himself it was just luck, a trick, a fluke. Maybe the laborer was strong because he had been working out. Maybe he was hiding something. Maybe he was different. But the bully didn't understand what he was looking at. He didn't understand the calmness. He didn't understand the silence. He didn't understand the quiet power that comes from a person who has trained his mind to be unshakable. The laborer spoke again, still calm. "You're afraid," he said. The bully laughed nervously. "Afraid of what?" he snapped. "You're just a laborer." The laborer's eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm a laborer," he said, "but you are the one who is small." The bully's anger rose, but it was no longer the anger of confidence. It was the anger of fear. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to regain control. He wanted to turn this moment back into a joke. So he stepped forward again. He raised his fist. This time he meant to hit, but the laborer didn't move like a fighter. He moved like a storm that didn't need to show itself. He moved like someone who knew exactly where the bully's weakness was, not in his body, but in his mind. The laborer shifted his weight, and the bully's fist missed by inches. The bully's arm shook, like a puppet whose strings were suddenly cut. The laborer didn't strike. He simply redirected the bully's momentum. The bully's body spun, and he fell to the ground. It wasn't violent. It wasn't brutal. It was controlled, like a teacher correcting a student. Like someone showing the bully that the world was bigger than his ego. The bully lay on the floor, staring up, stunned. His face was red with shame. His chest was rising and falling fast. He was breathing hard, not from effort, but from humiliation. He tried to stand up, but his legs felt weak. He looked up at the laborer and realized something horrifying. This wasn't a fight he could win. The laborer walked slowly toward him, not rushing, not threatening, just walking. The bully's eyes followed him like a frightened child watching a parent who is about to punish him. The laborer stopped a few feet away. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed, like someone who didn't understand why the bully had chosen this path. He spoke again, his voice calm but heavy. "You thought you were strong because you could hurt people," he said. "But strength is not in the hand that hits. Strength is in the mind that controls it." The bully's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but no words came out. He felt trapped, not by force, but by truth. He had been caught in a mirror, forced to look at himself. The laborer's eyes never left his face. "You have a choice," he said. "You can change, or you can stay small." The bully's mind raced. He could see the other workers watching from the corners. He could feel their eyes like knives. He could hear the silence. He could feel his reputation collapsing. He could feel the shame swallowing him. He realized something else too, something worse. The laborer didn't need to fight him. The laborer didn't need to prove anything. The laborer was already in control. The bully looked down. He swallowed. He tried to find a way to escape without looking weak, but there was no escape. His pride had already been broken. He forced himself to speak, but his voice was shaky. I'm sorry," he whispered. The laborer nodded slowly. He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He simply turned away, as if the moment was already over. But the bully couldn't move. He couldn't stop thinking about the truth he had just learned. He couldn't stop thinking about the fact that he had been humiliated by a man he thought was weak. He couldn't stop thinking about the fact that he had been facing Bruce Lee. And he couldn't stop thinking about what would happen if he ever tried to pick on someone again. Because now, he knew there was always someone stronger than you. And sometimes, that someone was the person you least expected. After the laborer walked away, the bully stayed on the floor, staring at the ground like a man who had lost something he didn't know he had. His pride, his identity, his sense of power. Everything he had built his life around was now cracked, broken, and exposed. He expected people to laugh. He expected them to point. He expected them to enjoy his fall. But the silence was different. The silence wasn't cruel. It wasn't mocking. It was heavy, like everyone in the room was realizing something important. The workers didn't move. They didn't cheer. They didn't rush to help. They just watched. And in that silence, the bully felt something he had never felt before. He felt small. The bully looked up, slowly. He saw the laborer standing near the door, still calm, still steady. The laborer's face was expressionless, but the air around him was filled with a strange kind of authority, like someone who didn't need to say anything to be respected. The bully's eyes followed him. He wanted to understand. He wanted to know who this man was. He wanted to know how someone so quiet could be so powerful. But the laborer didn't answer. He didn't look back. He simply walked out. The bully stayed there, lying on the ground, his mind racing. He couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. He couldn't stop thinking about how easily he had been controlled. He couldn't stop thinking about the feeling of being exposed, the feeling of being weak. The next day, the bully returned to the same place. He didn't know why. Maybe he was looking for the laborer. Maybe he was looking for revenge. Maybe he was looking for another chance to prove himself. But he wasn't the same. He walked in slowly, avoiding eye contact. He didn't laugh. He didn't act confident. He didn't push anyone around. He was quiet, and the workers noticed. The bully's reputation had changed overnight. People didn't fear him anymore. They didn't respect him. They simply ignored him. The bully sat down in a corner, waiting for the laborer to show up, waiting for something to happen, waiting for the moment when he could finally regain his power. Hours passed. Nothing happened. The bully started to panic. He realized he had lost control of the situation. He realized that he was no longer the center of attention. He realized that he had become irrelevant. Then, he heard a voice behind him. "Are you still here?" The bully turned around. The laborer stood there, calm as ever. He was holding a small bag. He looked like he was just coming from work. But his eyes were different. There was a depth to them that made the bully feel uncomfortable. The bully tried to stand up, but his legs shook. He forced himself to remain still. The laborer walked closer. The bully expected a threat. He expected another humiliation. He expected to be punished. But the laborer did something unexpected. He sat down next to him. The bully stared at him, confused. He didn't understand why this man was being kind, why this man was not angry, why this man was not trying to hurt him. The laborer spoke softly. "You don't have to be a bully," he said. "You could be a person." The bully felt a strange emotion rise inside him, something he hadn't felt in years, something that scared him more than fear, something that felt like hope. "Why are you being nice?" the bully asked. "You could have destroyed me." The laborer looked at him. "I didn't want to destroy you," he said. "I wanted to show you the truth." The bully swallowed. He felt the truth hit him like a heavy object. He realized that the laborer didn't humiliate him because he wanted revenge. He humiliated him because he wanted to wake him up. The bully's eyes filled with tears. He didn't cry because he was weak. He cried because he finally saw how far he had fallen. The laborer stood up. "If you want to change, you can," he said. "But you must choose it." The bully looked at him, and for the first time, he felt something he had never felt before: respect. He nodded. The laborer turned away and walked out. The bully stayed behind, alone, thinking. He realized that the real battle wasn't physical. The real battle was inside him. And now he had a choice. He could keep being a bully, or he could become a better man. The bully sat alone in the corner, watching the door where the laborer had walked out. His mind was heavy. His chest felt tight. He felt like a man who had been stripped of everything he used to hide behind. The loud voice, the fake confidence, the cruel laughter. All that was gone now. And in its place was a silence he didn't know how to handle. He kept thinking about the laborer's words. You don't have to be a bully. You can be a person. Those words kept echoing in his head like a constant reminder of his shame. He hated them. He hated that they were true. He hated that someone had looked at him and seen the real problem. Not the bully, but the pain underneath. He didn't understand why he had become a bully. He didn't understand what had happened to him. But he knew one thing. He didn't want to feel this way again. He stood up slowly. He walked to the front of the building. He looked at the workers who were busy with their tasks. He looked at the faces of people he had hurt. He looked at the expressions of people who no longer feared him. And he felt something he never felt before. Regret. It wasn't the kind of regret that makes you angry. It was the kind that makes you quiet. The kind that makes you realize you have been living the wrong life. The bully walked out of the building and stood outside. The sun was setting. The air was calm. It felt like the world was waiting for him to make a decision. He knew he had to find the laborer. He didn't know why. Maybe he wanted to apologize. Maybe he wanted to ask for guidance. Maybe he wanted to prove that he could change. But he didn't know where to start. He walked through the streets, asking people if they had seen him. He searched the neighborhood. He checked the local gym. He checked the warehouse again. But there was no sign of the laborer. He felt lost. Then he saw a small park, a place where people practiced martial arts. He didn't know why, but he walked toward it. He saw a group of people training, moving with focus and discipline. Their movements were sharp, controlled, and calm. And then he saw him. The laborer was there, standing in the middle of the group. His posture was strong. His eyes were calm. His presence was like a force that didn't need to be loud to be powerful. The bully stopped. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he had the right to be there. He didn't know if he could even speak. But he walked forward anyway. The laborer noticed him. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look angry. He simply nodded, as if he had expected this moment. The bully approached him slowly. He bowed slightly, not because he was weak, but because he finally understood respect. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice shaking. "I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to be a person." The laborer listened. He didn't interrupt. He just stood there, calm and silent. The bully continued. "I don't want to be a bully anymore, but I don't know how to stop." The laborer's eyes softened. He spoke with a calm voice. "You must learn control," he said. "Control is not about power. Control is about choosing your actions even when you feel like you are losing." The bully looked down. "How do I start?" The laborer stepped closer. "First, you must understand what made you this way," he said. "Anger doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from pain. It comes from fear. It comes from a need to feel powerful because you feel powerless inside." The bully felt his chest tighten. He didn't want to admit it, but he knew it was true. The laborer continued. "You must train your mind the way you train your body. Start with discipline. Start with respect. Start with honesty." The bully nodded slowly. "I will try," he said. The laborer nodded back. "Then you will succeed," he said. "But you must be patient. Change takes time." The bully looked at him, and for the first time, he didn't see an enemy. He saw a teacher. He saw a person who had the power to change him, not by force, but by wisdom. The laborer turned and walked back to the group. The bully followed. The bully felt a strange emotion rise inside him. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something else. Hope. And for the first time in his life, he felt like he was not alone. The bully didn't know what he was walking into. He only knew he had to follow. He had to find a way to become someone else. He had to find a way to stop the anger that had been controlling him for years. He had to learn how to be a person. The park was quiet now. The training group had ended. The laborer stood alone, stretching his arms slowly. His movements were calm and controlled, like someone who had mastered the body as well as the mind. The bully stood a few feet away, unsure of what to do next. The laborer looked up. "You came back," he said. The bully swallowed. "I didn't know where else to go," he admitted. The laborer nodded. "Then you are honest," he said. "Honesty is the first step." The bully's voice shook. "I don't know how to be honest," he said. "I don't know how to be calm. I don't know how to control myself." The laborer walked closer. "Control is not something you suddenly get," he said. "Control is something you build every day, like a muscle." The bully listened. He didn't understand everything, but he felt something inside him slowly changing. He felt the first spark of discipline. The laborer continued. "The mind is the most dangerous weapon. It can create a bully, or it can create a hero. It depends on what you feed it. The bully stared at him. What should I feed it? He asked. The laborer looked into his eyes. Feed it truth, he said. Feed it patience. Feed it respect. Feed it discipline. And never feed it revenge. The bully nodded slowly, but his face changed. A shadow passed over his expression. His eyes looked distant. The laborer noticed it. What is wrong? He asked. The bully hesitated. He didn't want to admit the real reason. He didn't want to show the weakness that had always been hidden behind his anger. Finally, he spoke. I still feel like I need to prove something, he said. I still feel like I need to show people I'm strong. The laborer's face remained calm. That feeling will never leave you if you don't face it, he said. Strength is not something you show to others. Strength is something you become. The bully's eyes tightened. I became a bully because I was weak, he said. I was weak inside. People laughed at me. They pushed me around. I hated it. I hated feeling small. The laborer listened carefully. And what happened? He asked. The bully looked down. I decided I would never be small again, he said. So I became the one who pushes others. I became the one who laughs. I became the one who hurts. The laborer nodded slowly. That is what pain does, he said. It makes you build a wall. But the wall becomes a prison. The bully's eyes filled with tears again. He tried to blink them away. He hated crying. He hated feeling weak. But the truth was too heavy to hold back. The laborer spoke softly. You can break the wall, he said. But you must choose to. The bully swallowed hard. How? He asked. The laborer stepped back and pointed to a small training bag. First, he said, you train, not to fight, to discipline your mind. You must learn to control your anger. The bully nodded. What do I do? The laborer walked him through the first steps. Breathe, he said. In and out. Slow. Focus on the breath. Let the mind calm down. The bully followed. He inhaled slowly. He exhaled. His body trembled. He felt something in his chest loosen. He felt a small part of his anger melt away. The laborer continued. Now, you repeat a truth, he said. Say it out loud. The bully hesitated. What truth? The laborer looked at him. Say, I'm not my anger. The bully repeated it, barely audible. I'm not my anger. The laborer nodded. Again, he said. The bully repeated it louder. I'm not my anger. The laborer smiled slightly. Good, he said. Now you are beginning to control your mind. The bully felt a strange emotion rise. It was not confidence. It was not pride. It was something deeper, a sense of clarity. He felt like he was seeing himself for the first time. The laborer continued the training. He taught him basic balance drills, slow movements, and the idea of control. He didn't teach him to fight. He taught him to master himself. Hours passed. The sun disappeared completely. The bully was exhausted. His body was tired, but his mind was clearer than it had ever been. The laborer looked at him and said, Tomorrow, we will continue. The bully nodded. Will I ever be able to stop being a bully? He asked. The laborer looked at him with calm confidence. If you keep training your mind, he said, you will become someone people respect, not fear. The bully nodded again. He left the park that night feeling different. Not like a hero, not like a changed man, but like someone who finally understood the path. And for the first time, the bully didn't feel the need to prove anything. He felt the need to grow. The next day, the bully arrived at the park before sunrise. He didn't come with anger. He came with a quiet purpose. He arrived early because he wanted to prove to himself that he could be disciplined. He wanted to prove that he could follow through. The laborer was already there. He stood alone, facing the empty field, practicing slow movements like a calm storm. The bully watched him for a moment, feeling a strange respect he didn't know how to express. The laborer turned and nodded. You came, he said. The bully nodded back. I'm here, he replied. The laborer walked toward him. Today, we do something different, he said. Today, you will face your real challenge. The bully's heart sped up. What challenge? He asked. The laborer pointed to a small group of men training nearby. They were stronger, bigger, and more experienced. They were not bullies. They were fighters, people who had trained for years. The bully looked at them and felt his old fear return. He remembered how it felt to be weak. He remembered how it felt to be mocked. He remembered how he had once wanted to be the one who laughed. The laborer saw his hesitation. You are not here to fight them, he said. You are here to face your fear. The bully swallowed. How? He asked. The laborer's voice was calm. You will stand in the middle, he said, and you will let them test you. Not to hurt you, to show you the difference between fear and strength. The bully's mind raced. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to run. He wanted to go back to the old life, where he was the one who controlled others. But he didn't. He walked toward the center of the field. The men stopped their training and stared at him. Some of them smirked. Others looked curious. No one recognized him. They only saw a man who looked unsure. The laborer stood behind him, watching. He didn't interfere. He didn't protect him. He let the bully face the challenge alone. The bully felt the eyes of everyone on him. He felt the pressure. He felt the old anger rise, the anger that used to give him power. But he stopped himself. He breathed. He remembered the training. He remembered the truth. He is not his anger. He is not his fear. The first man stepped forward. He was strong and fast. He moved with confidence. He threw a controlled strike, not to hurt but to test. The bully instinctively raised his hands, but he didn't fight back. He didn't try to win. He only tried to survive without reacting. The strike hit his shoulder. He felt the pain, but he didn't shout. He didn't snap. He stood still. The second man stepped forward. He threw a kick. The bully flinched, but he didn't panic. He kept his balance. He held his ground. The men continued one by one. They tested him, pushed him, struck him. They didn't hit hard, but they did enough to show him that he could be hurt, that he could fail. The bully's body shook. His breath became heavy. He felt the urge to react, to fight back, to show strength. But he didn't. He stayed calm. He stayed controlled. He allowed the challenge to happen. After the last man finished, the group stopped. The field became quiet. The bully stood in the center, bruised, tired, but still standing. The laborer walked up to him. You did not fight, he said. The bully looked at him. I didn't need to, he replied. The laborer nodded. That is strength, he said. Not the strength of your hands, the strength of your mind. The bully looked at the group. He realized something. They weren't laughing at him. They were respecting him. He had faced fear without becoming a bully. He had faced pain without becoming cruel. He had finally learned the real meaning of strength. The laborer placed a hand on his shoulder. Now you know, he said. You can choose who you want to be. The bully looked up, eyes filled with a new emotion, not fear, not anger, respect. And in that moment, he understood that the true battle was won inside him.